And those are food stamps, or what used to be food stamps and are now nifty little debit card looking things that people who receive nutritional assistance, nutritional subsidy from the Department of Agriculture can use to buy their groceries and sundry items. And this is Power Play. Welcome back. And those food stamps, in fact, are the things that are complicating very much a big agriculture spending bill that is bogged down in the U.S. Senate. We're going to talk about that with Congressman Scott Tipton, who happens to sit on the Agriculture Committee in the United States House of Representatives. He is a Republican from Colorado with a whole lot of farmers in his district. Congressman, welcome.
Chris, pleasure to be with you.
Okay, so you guys. Well, actually, before we get to this, I'd like to get a rebuttal from you. We heard from your Democratic colleague Paul Tonko from New York just a moment ago about what happens if the Supreme Court takes out the mandatory insurance provision of President Obama's 2010 health care law. He says, go ahead, and then we'll figure out a way to get that $1 trillion or so from someplace else instead of the mandatory purchase of insurance, that instead you would do taxes or some other different thing to get to a government plan. What do you say?
You know, the bottom line is, if the Supreme Court rules that the individual mandate is not constitutional, I think the President's health care plan falls under its own weight. They don't have a funding mechanism. If that happens, then we can actually address what I think concerns most Americans. That is affordability and accessibility. I'd invite all of our Democrat colleagues that support this, come out to my district, talk to senior citizens who are no longer able to access health care because doctors are not accepting Medicaid and Medicare coming through. Go out and talk to any individuals who are paying for their health insurance. They aren't seeing it decrease, they're seeing it increase. Let's go ahead and create those opportunities for the free markets to be able to work, be able to buy across state lines. Let's have actual tort reform that this administration and his supporters in Congress simply did not want to be able to address. Let's be able to have people have that real relationship between the doctor and the patient. And let them make those choices in regards to the type of health insurance that they'd like to have. And let's stand up for senior citizens, something I'm fully committed to, by pulling back the $575 billion that they took out of Medicare to be able to fund the President's health care plan. And let's not have bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. making health care choices for our senior citizens.
And see, he knows a lot more than just agriculture. Did you see that, Internet? He just jumped right on that. No problem there. Okay, Congressman. Now the question is, so we're spending right now, and have been since 2009, something in the neighborhood of about $82 billion a year on food stamps. Now, that rate spiked with the Obama stimulus in 2009 and has stayed high with persistent unemployment and those things. Now, the House passed a measure that would pretty substantially alter the way that food stamps work. Now, that went over to the Senate, and Democrats poo-pooed it. But now Republicans are rallying and trying to get a version of what you guys did amended onto their bill. Tell us how it works, first of all.
You know, the bottom line is we have $15.8 trillion debt in this nation. We have to be able to reduce that. When we look at the budget for the House Agricultural Committee, for the Department of Agriculture, we see $100 billion. $80 billion of those dollars are going to food stamps. Is it appropriate to be able to have college students, people who have just won the lottery, to be able to go down and use food stamps? There isn't a person in this country that wants anyone to not have enough food to be able to live, but we have a lot of abuses in this program that we can certainly trim and correct, and this has to be part of the economic solution of this country.
And of course, we should point out that the year before, in fiscal year 2008, it wasn't $82 billion, it was $40 billion. So it doubled since then and had been on an increasing plane, really going back to about 2000. Is it possible, though, in an election year, to convince people that being stingier with food stamps is not a sort of, it sounds, or certainly could sound in a campaign ad, like kind of an inhumane position?
You know, and I think that that's something we hope to see Washington move beyond. Every time we start talking about trimming anywhere in government, there's demonization. If you go into my district, I have people who are not receiving food stamps that are having a tough time being able to provide for their families. We can provide the necessary food that folks are going to be able to need if they're having hard times, but we can also create efficiencies in government. You know, when we go back to 2002, up to the present, we've seen a 2.6 times percent increase in food stamp spending. That's not a percentage, 2.6 times an increase in spending on food stamps. We need to be able to create those efficiencies, and really the best thing we can do is actually get people back to work so that they don't need those food stamps. You know, I just put in some legislation. It's called Planning for America's Energy Future Act of 2012, to be able to responsibly and in all of the above fashion creating jobs in America on American soil, to be able to create energy which can lower our energy costs here as well, to be able to help struggling families. So this is all part of the package and the process, and the bottom line, if we get America back to work, we'll have less people that are actually going to need to rely on these programs, and that is the best solution.
What is the saying? Paychecks, not food stamps. Okay, Congressman, have to ask you, so today the intrigue-gripping things over there in your office building has to do with when Eric Holder, or will Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, meet with the heads of the Republican head of the House Government Affairs and Oversight Committee, Darrell Issa from California, your colleague, and Senator Chuck Grassley, the ranking Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, to talk about the Fast and Furious. They're trying to avoid, Holder's trying to avoid a vote, which could take place as soon as tomorrow, on holding him in contempt. What are you hearing, and what do you expect to see?
You know, I think I would like to certainly see Mr. Holder pay as much attention and put as much energy in to just be delivering what's been asked for by Chairman Issa and the Oversight Committee, to be able to address these concerns. You know, we had an American that was killed from a bad program. It is totally within the province of the Oversight Committee to be able to make these requests, and I think if he fails to respond, it's my impression that Chairman Issa and others would move forward with contempt. We're tired of the bob and weave. Just give us the answers.
And this is the congressman is talking about the Fast and Furious, which was a gun-running sting that went terribly awry, dumped thousands of guns, perhaps, into the hands of Mexican drug cartels. And one of those guns has been linked to the murder of a U.S. Border Patrol agent. Congressman, we are so grateful that you made time for us today, and I hope you get back out to your very beautiful district sometime soon.